to tell people a little bit about myself and Trident. Trident Media Group is a literary agency in New York City. It's probably one of the largest agencies. We lead the agency world in number of deals and amount of money for deals every year consecutively since 2004. That's according to Publishers Marketplace. So no other agency is doing as many deals nor for as much money. It's not said to brag. It's meant as what I feel is good information for your viewers. There's every kind of author there, from fiction to nonfiction, children's books and graphic novels. You'll find New York Times bestselling authors, major award-winning authors, you name it. The agency's been around for a little over 20 years. The company controllers have been in the business much longer than that. I've been at the agency for a little over 10 years, and I typically lead Trident Media Group, the agency where I work, a number of deals in any given 6 to 12 month period. And it's not said to toot my own horn. It's just what I think the interesting thing about the data point, I guess, for your listeners is most of those authors were new or debut authors. So I think if someone's a new or debut author, they may stand a good chance, of getting published and working with me. And my taste really runs the gamut from fiction to nonfiction, children's books of all ages, and graphic novels.
It's almost simple to ask, is there anything that you don't care to represent?
I think it's interesting to keep life varied. I keep surprising myself. Like recently I did a book deal for an illustrated comic book illustrated cookbook, which explains kind of the sort of the strange names behind Chinese dishes, like why does the name translate, for instance, to ignored by dog buns, xiaolongbao. The story goes, the buns were so good when the chef invented them, one of them fell on the floor, a dog was eating it, and it was so delicious that no matter how hard the owner tried to get the dog's attention, like the dog couldn't be bothered. So so it's this origin story of all these named dishes, like Buddha jumps over the wall and stuff, and it's kind of this all ages graphic novel, cookbook graphic novel, really. So yeah, there's that one surprised me,
So you have like I don't know, maybe bucket list is the wrong word, but like a hope list of I want to cross off every type of genre, every type of book?
I think more so that just when I see that a book can work and it's interesting and seems promising to me, I want to work with that author in that book. So I don't try and rule stuff out. I think a lot of people want to be known as, that's the de facto agent or editor you go to when, you want to do children's fantasy, or you want to do a picture book, or you want to do like contemporary young adult romance or something like that. But I figured people would come to know me by my style of working, my brand of representation being, how I work with authors and publishers, and, what our agency is like, not necessarily like, oh, that's the person you go to when you do that book. It seems like the world's too interesting a place. Like, I don't know anyone who listens to just one kind of music or one album over and over again, It's kind of like that for me.
So if you want to be known for the experience that authors can look forward to, and they're Googling you as we speak, some of them have doubtless already heard about you, but they're Googling you, and the queries are hitting your inbox moments after we started the show. I have no doubt. But what kind of experience can they be looking forward? What kind of representation do you specialize in?
So I think what makes our agency unique is it being a big agency. There's lots of different departments there in service to the client. So we do a lot of work in book to film and TV, audiobooks, foreign rights for books in translation, and everything else an author can need in their life. Like we do, obviously the accounting, the contract review, and we have a digital marketing department. What's unique about that is because it's a bigger agency and we don't farm that business out, what it does is it frees up a lot more of my time to work with authors, to help them in their career wherever they feel my help is wanted or needed by them. And it makes those folks, a lot more directly answerable to me and the client than if it were, again, if it were farmed out. And then it being a bigger agency, we are better poised to help authors properly exploit the rights to their books, whereas a smaller agency, might want to give more rights away to a publisher just in exchange for what they think is a little more money. But it's a lot more economically sound for authors to hold on to as many rights as they can and later sell them, to an independent publisher or third-party publisher. And we're equipped to do that because all of that is there. So I think that is one thing that makes us unique. And the other is, it's actually a family business where I work. So the owner of the company and I, we share the same last name. It's no coincidence. I mention it because, clients of mine benefit from my unique position in that they then gain lots of visibility, lots of individual attention, and therefore access to all the great resources at Trident. So, I guess people can say what they want about nepotism, but it's not without its virtues. It certainly benefits clients of mine at the agency. And, the authors of mine are, they don't have to worry like, where's my agent going to be tomorrow? They can really grow with the agency.
Back when I worked a day job in finance, the owner of the company I worked for, his son joined the company fresh out of college and was assigned to my team. I don't remember if I was managing at that point or if I was just a team lead, but he was under me. I'm like, oh my gosh, the boss's son. And this is going to be a nightmare. And he was the hardest working employee I ever had. I couldn't say nothing but good things about him. He'd grown up within the company. He knew the culture. He hit the ground running. He was he was financial sales. He was a fantastic salesman. He had the top numbers. Just smile when I think about it. Was what a great employee, what a capable person. And you were born into the industry, right? You talk about you went to New Hampshire to see Janet Ivanovich, and you went to a Japanese restaurant to see Dean Koontz. This is as a child, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, both my parents worked in book publishing, and so I grew up in this world, and I always had like an inkling I might be doing the family business. It became more of a reality when, we opened our own company. Before that, we ran the William Morris Agency's book department, but then formed our own agency and basically, took all that with us. But yeah, I grew up around authors and interesting people, and the like your background there, and actually you can't see it because it's lining these walls on that side, but I'm actually in the study, so there's books all around me. Yeah, so when I went to school, I thought, okay, I could go to Columbia or Harvard and get study comparative literature and then go into book publishing. But then, sure, I would know a lot about books and literature, but what would I know about the book business? And at the time at Emerson College, it was one of the only schools in the country with an undergraduate study in book publishing. Before that, you couldn't even get a graduate degree in book publishing. You could only do like a certificate program, basically, which evolved out of the Harvard Radcliffe program, and then Columbia University picked it up. But basically, you spent, I don't know what it was, 4 weeks or maybe some months, and then you got a professional certificate. Instead, I went out for it at Emerson, and it was an interesting time to be doing that because it was only the second year the university had, the college had formed that area of study. And so you could actually see the curriculum being built around you as a student. And the interesting thing was they needed people to come in and teach this. And so a lot of them were, professors, adjunct professors, but people who worked in the publishing industry. They weren't just talking about it in theory, they were also living it in their professional lives. So my book editing professor was actually a book editor. My book marketing professor, she worked for Houghton Mifflin Harcourt and did their marketing. So it prepared you in a lot of ways.
And you, while you were there at Emerson College, you became the president of its publishing club, right? Then you established the Wild Press.
So yes, the year my freshman year there, the people who were a year ahead of me that same year, they started the undergraduate students for publishing club, or pub club as it was like casually known. And it was done kind of out of necessity, in that, like I mentioned, a lot of the curriculum was being built around us. So we wanted more publishing courses, for those who wanted to go into the publishing industry. But mostly what was available to us was creative writing classes, literature classes, maybe the occasional, publishing type classes. So we brought in like industry professionals. We taught each other, the publishing process. And then sometimes I would find like some of the curriculum we put together, like being taught in a classroom. I called the professor out on it one time, and he said, well, wait a minute, this is an academic community, so this is all, shared information. So I said, okay, sure. And but by the time I was a senior there were a lot more publishing courses. And yes, we started a small press there called Wild Press. It's still in existence. I think they're publishing, last I heard, like 4 chapbooks a year, which is great. We had just done one in starting, and that was in the last semester of our senior year. So it seems like they're doing that every semester, which is great. They have a hands-on publishing project that they're doing every year, the students.
It sounds like it would be almost fair to, we wouldn't say this, but it would be almost fair to say that you built part of the curriculum for the program, between establishing the press for students to continue to work in and learn that way. And also from some of the notes, it sounds like the professor summarized.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story, actually. So that same professor, he taught a few different courses. He taught book editing, general book publishing overview, and kind of like an advanced publishing overview. By the time we were in our senior year and he was teaching an advanced publishing overview class, which is also taught to graduate students, and the second book editing class, which I took, is also taught to graduate students, he did a segment of the course on contracts. And he said, I want you all to kind of make a mock contract and all the things you think are in there. And so people were going online and trying to find what might be in a publishing contract, but they weren't really sure. And then I came to the class and there weren't authors' names or their titles in there, but I brought actual copies, publishing agreements, boilerplates basically, that had been negotiated between an agency and publisher. And I just had a stack of actual contracts. And he said, where did you get this stuff? These are real publishing agreements. Like, this is better than what the students could probably find in their research. They couldn't just knock on a door and get this stuff. So he ended up sharing that with the class instead. So there was a good give and take there. Yeah.
So when's your first memory of realizing that, oh, this is something special that's not true for everybody, getting to go and hang out with Dean Koontz or Janet Ivanovich in your formative years?
You don't realize that until people are telling you that, because, it's like if you grow up in a family of lawyers and you have a knowledge of the law, or you grow up in a family of accountants and you have a knowledge of numbers, it's just what you had always been brought up with. So it's second nature. Whereas, I didn't begin to realize this stuff until, we grew up just outside of New York City, and you can walk around New York City and find, a celebrity walking around any day, or sitting in a park or something like that, right? In a restaurant or anything. My friends were always nervous to go up to someone like that and talk to them, or even look at them, or ask for their autograph or photo. And I was never afraid to do that, because to me, they're just like anyone else. They're ordinary people. They just have extraordinary kinds of lives in the eyes of other people. And, that's when you begin to realize this stuff, where people look at your life and they say, oh, well, that's kind of different, or that's unusual, or that's interesting. And then it starts to click more. It starts to make more sense. Otherwise, it's what you're born into.
So do you have memories of talks around the dinner table or whatever it would have happened. You go into your father's office and you're looking at the contracts and you're talking about the best parts of representing an author, philosophies on how to help authors, on how publishing should be. Are these the types of conversations that you're kind of having?
Not so much as like, I would be sitting in the back of the car, and back then they had those big car phones with the wires and the big antenna on the car, and my dad would be doing his business calls in the car, and I'd be sitting and looking, and it would be or it might be on speakerphone, and I could hear these things going on. So I was like more so a fly on the wall, I'd say. And then, my contact with authors was like different at a young age. Like I was a big, back when I was young, Goosebumps, R.L. Stein's Goosebumps was a big thing. There was, the TV show had come out and everyone was reading the books and everyone wanted to have all the books because the covers were amazing. And at the time, he was a client at the William Morris Agency. And I said to my dad, I said, can you just get me every book with his autograph made out to my name? And he said, sure. And then I brought them to school and the kids, like, they couldn't believe it. So it was neat. Yeah, it was fun.